James Fort Blockhouse. Give me a little bit of history about this place, baby. Got nothing. Just an idea of how nature takes hold of buildings when they're open to the elements but also not lived in. It doesn't take much for it to start reclaiming it. Even solid walls. There's growth everywhere in here. It's quite amazing, really. We're not quite sure of the history of this place because there's information about the fort and about the castle, but we think this is the blockhouse. And we're not sure if that meant it was like a store or a prison or quite what, but yeah, it's quite amazing, really. There's this chimney. We don't know the story of this place, and up on the horizon up there you can see the remains of another building, whether it was attached to this building or whether it's a governor's house or just a private dwelling built at some other stage. It's also in a, well, state of disrepair, beyond repair. Around this corner, hidden in all the underbrush, is the entrance to the fort. Not sure if this is the only entrance, probably not. A bit too small for horses, but certainly an entrance. Definitely not the entrance. I've got a duck. Ooh. At least you know there's no spiders and snakes. Cool. Oh, we're not even in the fort proper. There's the fort. That might have been part of the place for guards to sneak in the back fence. Pretty cool. We're on this headland. Pretty good view. Right the way around you can see that other house there in the background. So it's all terribly overgrown with all manner of beautiful things, including hollyhocks and forget-me-nots, blackberry, gorse. But then you come out to this castle, or fort. This is the block outer wall with a ditch and then a raised secondary sort of fortification. It's very interesting. Very old. Got a rounded corner, which is always lovely when you find it in stonework. Oh, look at that. Just goes around here. I'm expecting the doorway to be here. Not quite sure how tall the original walls were, but I suppose they're probably not far off that tall piece. So yeah, cool. So it is the gate. And it opens into a wall, maybe so horses can't come charging in. And then you've got the buildings inside. And there's the defence wall up there for the soldiers to stand on. And then you've got the shadow remains there of that inside building. So this grassed area probably was open area. But yeah, it's got a smaller building inside. It's very nice. It's pretty cool. You're exploring as I'm exploring. Around here. We'll see what we've got. Not sure that it would have been this high up. Would have left the soldiers up here a little bit defenceless. But even so, got another set of stairs up to the tower. And an amazing outlook. Again, Kinsale over the other side of the water. And the castle over there. We've got another part of the outer wall here. And around here, some more of the original tower. And that door over there where those people are standing, it's probably the original entry door. That's tall enough for a horse and rider to get through. That's another view of the internal building. It's another part of the tower. Would have been at least 2 levels. Over here into the shade so I can scan up for you. You can see where the floor joists would have been, just up there above that doorway. And then it would have gone up to obviously the roof up there. Again, those narrow windows which make even this inside block defensible, which is very important if the outer walls are breached. And we come out this door and back into that inner courtyard, which would have all been within a secondary wall and living spaces, etc. Some of this might have been 2-storey. Some of it may have only been 1. You've got that tall edge there and you can see the outline of where the original roof would have been. But you've also got this large fireplace here. And it looks like there's a secondary one on the next level. So there probably was 2 floors in here. Because you can see the floor joists spaces above the fireplace. If you look carefully, those 2 holes would have been where floor joists would have been. Interesting. We'll go up and around the other side of this tower. See what's around here. You can see the little step where the soldiers would have stood. All along the wall there. And around. Down there. And they would have, I guess, used those as little peepholes. Can't get in here, but the pigeons and the doves have made their home. And this is just another view of the backside. In that building there you can see a couple of different fireplaces. So that would have probably been 4 rooms in that building. So, yeah. So this was actually a fort within a fort within a fort. Maybe that bramble hedge around the outside hides the foundation of the original outer wall, which would have been kind of interesting, but they decided that was too big, and so they pulled it back to just that inside bit, and they had 23 soldiers garrisoned here. It also, interestingly, had an underground tunnel to the blockhouse that we were in just before. So, yeah, maybe they stored gunpowder and stuff in there. Who knows? This is Charles Fort, which is on the opposite headland to the old fort. This was built later than the other one, obviously. I'll tell you some more when we get inside. There's a moat, and it would have had a drawbridge. And there's a great stone gate. It's a really big moat. You can see how big it would have been. Whew. Could have been a wet moat. Don't know how you know. But either way, it was big. An interesting little tidbit we heard at Edinburgh Castle, the old thoughts of people throwing hot oil or whatever down on the invading force, probably false, because they wouldn't have had enough oil to waste, but they would have had plenty of human excrement. So that's probably what used to get tossed over the edge down onto the invading forces. I guess if they then overrun you, it would be smelly inside too. We picked a fabulous day to visit Cork. It's a corker of a day. Haha. Anyway, seriously, we are in the Charles Fort. I don't know any history about it yet because we haven't got to the exhibition, but I wanted to give you a bit of an overview as we came down into it. So it's high on the outside as you enter, and then it comes down to quite low walls because it faces the ocean, and that allowed for the cannons to fire over the top, which is interesting. It's built a little bit differently to other forts of the same nature. So there's actually a mosaic on the ground here. You can see the shape of it, which is quite beautiful. So I'll show you a picture of that. You can see where it comes in, and that's sort of an aerial view in mosaic of how it looks as it faces the ocean. Beautiful building we're heading down towards, which is one of the exhibit rooms. So when I come out of there, I'll have some information to share. This is called a sally port. It was actually the governor's way in and out of the fort if he wanted to get out without anybody knowing. Who knows why? All sorts of things spring to mind. But yes, it took him out to this part of the thing. So that could answer my question as to whether it's a wet or dry moat, because I can't imagine he got here and then swam. The Charles Fort in Kinsale, which is in the south of Ireland, was started building in 1678. It's a really interesting building because it's built, if you look from above, like a star, and like the other fort on the headland, the much older one, the walls are also reinforced with rammed earth, which allowed for cannonballs and things to hit without damaging them in the same way that just a standing wall would be damaged. But yeah, this fort was actually an awful lot bigger than it looked. It housed various levels of soldiers and obviously all the staff that worked there, and also had artillerymen, and yeah, lots of ancillary staff, like I said. Interestingly, the soldiers were not really meant to marry. The whole point of being drafted was that you were fully loyal to the army, but they did allow 6 weddings or 6 marriages per 100 soldiers, and that was done. The people that were able to marry were chosen by lots, and those women were expected to live in the barracks with the rest of the men. They had a curtain for privacy, and they were expected to do some of the cooking and mending, etc. So it wouldn't necessarily have been a wonderful life to have been with the men, but when the men were selected or joined the services or the army, they were then expected to serve for life until they were either killed or could no longer serve due to age or some sort of injury. So yeah, it would have been a very, very hard life, but they would have at least been fed and had a regular pay. So in that regard, it would have actually been a worthy sort of job to have taken. But we enjoyed looking around this fort. It was very, very interesting. You can see the various buildings and the way that they looked. Yeah, it was well worth a visit if you ever get to Kinsale.